By order of Overseer Directive Alpha 1911. The following file is Level 6/01 classified. Unauthorized access is strictly forbidden and will result in immediate termination, regardless of clearance or importance to the Foundation. 001. Submit Overseer level credentials. Does the Black Moon howl? Only of the sins of yesterday, through the crimes of tomorrow. Identity confirmed. Security measures disengaged. Welcome, authorized personnel. The Queen awaits. Code name, the Queen's Gambit. Item, SCP-001. Object class, pending reclassification. Special containment procedures. The General Assembly of Thaumaturgists and Theologists against Queen Mab 1 is to ensure all non-SCP-001a staff are forbidden from entering the building. The origins, motivations, and connections to any cults or thaumaturgic groups of POI-001a, James Rolander, are to be investigated. Update the 23rd of March 1910. Site-01 has been created around SCP-001a to maintain its proper containment. All staff entering into the anomaly are to be rotated out on a monthly basis and are to undergo weekly psychological screenings for any changes. Entry into SCP-001b is not to be attempted. Any personnel entering are to be considered lost. Attempts to contact them are prohibited. No contact, physical, psychic, or otherwise, with SCP-001c is to be attempted. Research into the nature and properties of POI-001c, Queen Mab, is to be considered an Alpha Class priority. Procedure 001 Corpus is to be initiated on a weekly basis to maintain proper containment of POI-001c. Its maintenance is imperative. Update the 13th of August 1911. As per Directive Alpha 1911, worldwide amnestics are to be utilized to expunge the knowledge of SCP-001a from the general public. All references to the previously General Foundation knowledge of the Forever Wandering originating outside Overwatch Command are to be expunged by the Office of Maria Jones, Secretary of the O5 Council. The search for NICS users and free ports worldwide is to be considered an Alpha Class priority. Update. The 6th of November 1914. It is imperative that personnel assigned to the Polish containment project investigate all information regarding the existence of a free port within the confines of Zestachau, Poland. All further information regarding the existence of non-SCP within Poland is to be immediately forwarded to Overwatch Command. Update the 2nd of May 1916. Site 120 has been established in Zestachau to oversee all activities regarding FP-120, Esterberg. In the event that any information about POI-001c or GOI-120, Triumvirate, is obtained, the Emergency O5 Council contact line should be utilized to relay the aforementioned as quickly as possible. Description: SCP-001 refers to three interrelated phenomena: SCP-001a, SCP-001b, and SCP-001c. SCP-001a is an industrial megastructure located 75 km north of Krakow, Poland, founded and overseen by James Rolander. Acting as the main provider of a plethora of services to the entire country and most of the continent, it currently houses approximately 30,000 laborers working and living within its confines. Atop its gates the following sentence, written in the Fee language, can be seen. The factory hungers, as the Queen's move has become her last gambit. Do not leave it in famine. POI-001a Personnel File. Biography. James Rolander was born in 1860 to a wealthy American family mainly settled within New York. Being an only son, He was always meant to inherit the family fortune and their industrial empire consisting of numerous industrial plants once the current holders, his father and mother, inevitably died. Highly interested in the history of Homo sapiens Cid, and children of the night, Homo sapiens noctis, ever since his childhood, Rolander had always shown an above-average intelligence, near-perfect memory, and skill in obtaining historical information otherwise thought to be undiscoverable. However, when a majority of his family died under unexplained circumstances in 1888 during a fatal shipboard incident, for which he was not present, but had personally financed, Poi-001, donated all of his stocks and buildings to an unknown thaumaturgic cabal operating in the USA. The next day James Rolander was seen leaving America with a ship headed for Great Britain, later traveling to, at that time occupied, Poland. Witnesses of the event reported the man acting highly paranoid and erratic, as if he were afraid someone was observing him, and holding an unidentified tome within his hands. Having disappeared for approximately 10 years following the conclusion of his travels, he reappeared in 1898 near Krakow, Poland, with the construction of Scp-001a starting shortly after. Scp-001b is a room located within Scp-001a, which can only be found once an individual expresses the wish to find it, be it willingly or subconsciously. So far, attempts to mark it in relation to any other rooms or landmarks within the structure have been unsuccessful. Inevitably, all individuals coming into contact with it will describe drastically different details of the place and the path which led them to it. Scp-001c is an entity located within Scp-001b, fed by human sacrifices delivered to it by Poi-001a. Further details regarding its nature are presently unavailable. Discovery: Scp-001a was constructed by a currently unidentified group of individuals or force between 1898 to 1902. No formal records regarding the process of construction exist. Created as the ultimate factory, it was meant to supply every single possible industrial need of the people. Scp-001a gained Foundation attention in 1908 after exceedingly high levels of thaumaturgic energy were intercepted from it. This energy did not fade over time, instead remaining at a consistently high level. Now theorized to be the date of origin for Scp-001b, this event sparked a visible period of the highest productivity to date, ultimately resulting in unprecedented profits and the expansion of Rolander's nascent empire. To eliminate the possibility that the event was merely a coincidence precipitated by the building's potentially anomalous location, further research was approved. This resulted in the discovery of the ruins of numerous palaces and city structures in the caverns below the factory. Dated at approximately 200,000 years old, they were immediately identified as structures formed by the Phi Empire prior to its fall. Despite their anomalous properties, it was later discovered that they had been uninvolved with the event, which had instead been the result of some form of ritual conducted within Scp-001a. Following these discoveries, the Foundation officially classified Scp-001a as its first full high-priority project following the adoption of the SCP classification, resulting in it acquiring the designation of SCP-001. Addendum 0011, Scp-001a Exploration. In light of the thaumaturgic energy's failure to fade, the O5 Council decided that more information regarding Scp-001a was required. As no Scp-001a personnel were noted leaving the factory within the previous month, a Foundation-organized exploration mission was orchestrated. However, upon entry into the factory, the task force immediately lost contact with the Foundation. Addendum 0012, Scp-001a Ruins Analysis. Following the loss of contact with previous exploration missions, It was decided that further exploration attempts would inevitably end the same way. In order to still obtain further potential information regarding SCP-001, research into the nature and origin of the ruins underneath the factory was immediately approved. The following is a statement by the project's research head following numerous months of focused investigation, released on the 14th of December 1909. Prior to reading it, personnel are heavily advised to familiarize themselves with the documentation available in the sidebox next to it to understand its full context. The Two Great Diasporas. The following is a full timeline of the history of human, Phi, and Children of Night conflicts and all events leading to the Two Great Diasporas, as compiled by 05-4. As most of the historical records acting as evidence for these events are either extremely old or severely damaged, precise Gregorian calendar dates cannot be traced. Approximate dates are given instead. Unknown. Consensus baseline reality achieves stability as the result of numerous religious faiths being simultaneously true, due to human belief bestowing power upon them. Old gods and numerous other deific entities presumably responsible for the creation and destruction of the era fade away, leaving Earth to its own machinations. No further outside influence on history is noted from this point forth. 300,000 years BCE, humans, Phi, and Children of the Night emerge as the three dominant species on the planet, evolving from one, currently unknown common evolutionary predecessor. As humans live in the plains during the day, the Phi hide in the forests where nature reigns. The remaining Nightwalkers exist in caverns. 280,000 years BCE, Queen Mab and her sister, name unknown. All references are anomalously expunged from the record, with similar energy markings to the removal of one's name, are born. Utilizing their nigh limitless ontokinetic and thaumaturgic abilities, they establish a vast empire, connecting all Phi as one nation ruled by the two. Children of the Night create numerous underground cities, and humans remain as nomadic tribes. 275,000 years BCE, as the two queens' control over their abilities grows to near full understanding, the Phi Empire expands worldwide, taking control over both humans and Nightwalkers. The former are put into gigantic habitats, unaware of their situation and observed by Phi royalty as entertainment, whilst the latter's cities are destroyed and their inhabitants sent to the darkness of the mines to work as slaves. The divide between the Phi poor and the aristocrats grows exponentially as the royalty gains power through the exploitation of the working class, treated similarly to the prisoners. 240,000 years BCE, an all-out war between the two factions of the Phi Empire breaks out, with Queen Mab and her sister standing on opposite sides, divided by moral issues. Utilizing her vastly greater power of ontokinetic abilities and the skill to take away names, Mab swings the conflict in favor of the Phi royalty. Exploiting the chaos, Children of the Night break free, uniting with humanity and eventually bringing the conflict to the end by raiding the palaces of the royalty. Mab murders her sister, but temporarily loses her power in the process, allowing for the rebellion to eliminate her. The Phi Empire falls, with its subjects scattering around the globe. Children of the Night become the dominant species, ending the First Great Diaspora. 220,000 years BCE, the Nightwalkers create vast, technologically advanced metropolises, coexisting harmoniously with nature. Humanity once again becomes a protected, zoo-like species. Through unknown means, Queen Mab survives between several afterlives, eventually gaining insight into baseline reality. 210,000 years BCE, Queen Mab persuades humanity to overthrow the Children of the Night, lending them some of her remaining power. Together with the remaining Phi, humanity and its newfound allies destroys the SCP-1000 civilization, eventually wiping their memories of the event. The Second Great Diaspora, also referred to as the Day of the Flowers, makes humanity the dominant species. The remaining Phi scatter across the globe, maintaining an extremely low population, hiding in the forests to not allow MAB to gain further control. Scp-001a Ruins Analysis. A paper by 05-43. When I first arrived at the dig site beneath Scp-001a, I'd be lying if I said I wasn't expecting the usual findings, that being yet another gigantic ruined palace of MAB, brought down by the furious first diasporans desperately trying to find the monster behind their suffering. And, in a sense, I was right. The building was in fact yet another fortress of the devil MAB is, but this time it was different. What we found was, frankly, shocking. One room after another, we uncovered the secrets that place had held for so many millennia after the first slaughter, and, well, after months of relentless work and making sure our interpretations were accurate, we have to come to one final conclusion that we are almost afraid to mutter. She still breathes somewhere outside our reality, biding her time. Just like her sibling. We've always thought the other died, trying to stop her monstrous sister. However, evidence recovered from the Scp-001a ruins single-handedly debunks this. We checked all our calculations and interpretations to make sure we're not wrong, for this could change everything. What's even more shocking is that the sister is not only alive, but also active. Just like MAB has her own cults trying to find a ritual capable of resurrecting her, so does the sibling. We however discovered something even more alarming: the names of the sisters. Not true names, of course, for the second sister does not even own hers anymore, but we did discover, half names, would be the best way to put it. Words not fully describing the very being of a person, as true Phi names do, but descriptors of important parts of their personalities. For MAB, long associated with lies and deceit, it was Shvi and Shvijifer, meaning queen and starlight respectively, but for the sister, associated with creation and aid, Nvnfat and Pitj, which, upon translation, meant inventor and factory. What's even more alarming is the event that led to the thaumaturgic energy explosion within Scp-001a. You see, upon further inspection, my teams discovered many truly bizarre signs, higher Kiva radiation, as well as a single sentence woven into the rituals binding the room that would eventually become Scp-001b into our reality. Come, inventor, come, our factory. The queen is ready. Do not leave her waiting. And so, it appears, Rolanda quite literally called forth a factory. A factory to resurrect the true factory through regular human sacrifice. Identical ritual parts were detected in the magic which created the factory in the first place. What's more, my men report the feeling that these two rituals were merely two parts of a three-act performance. Whatever the hell Rolanda did to bring his masterpiece and the room within to life was merely preparation for bringing a third thing, this time presumably an entity, from within it and into our reality. MAB has been a danger lurking behind our backs for almost 40 years now, ever since we founded ourselves in those dark halls, swearing to protect humanity from a third diaspora that would bring us down again. We did everything we could to stop MAB's influence, but let's face it, our best magicians won't even form a fraction of the power that devil possesses. But the sister does. And we need to do everything in our power to use that to our advantage. What I'm trying to say is that I believe Scp-001b isn't merely a room, it's a throne room, designed to host royalty. Whatever god resides there, and let's call it Scp-001c, for simplicity's sake, I can feel its hatred for MAB pumping through the veins of the factory, coming from the pounding heart seated within. And I know only of one entity that hates MAB more than the Nightwalkers. We must use this opportunity as best as we can, unless we wish for another genocide to hit, this time targeting us. Addendum 0013. Further research and changes. 2 months following the conclusion of the Scp-001a ruins research, the news regarding it was apparently leaked by an unknown individual to the worldwide anomalous community. Numerous rumors resulted, and as a result, militia organizations were seen taking interest in the factory. This news reached the ever-growing group supporting Mab's actions and planning her resurrection. In the coming weeks, their squads were noted to patrol the outskirts of the factory, apparently seeking to gain access. Successfully doing so, they were then seen sabotaging Scp-001a, resulting in significant damage to the building. To counteract this action, Rolanda decided to double the sacrifice rate towards Scp-001c, resulting in an extremely high disappearance rate among workers within Krakow and surrounding cities. This led to local authorities gaining interest in the case. To counteract a possible veil-breaking event, on the 3rd of February 1910, the administrator sent the following urgent message to Rolanda. Honorable James Rolanda. We are aware of your actions within your factory, and, whilst we realize and appreciate your intentions of keeping Mab at bay through the resurrection of the inventor, we must ask for an immediate cessation of such activities. We realize that you are left with no other option than to increase your sacrifices following the attacks, but we simply cannot allow you to continue doing so. The only alternative you realistically have is to properly deal with the attacks and continue your work at a normal pace. We hope you will understand our concerns and express a wish to cooperate, for we will engage with force otherwise. With respect. Krakow authorities. 2 days later, the following reply was received by the O5 Council. How POI-001a was aware of the location of its members remains unknown. Silence. Foul creatures of darkness. My noble heart shan't listen to your laughable heresies. I can hear the Queen speaking through your words. And, I want you to know one thing. I am no Starlight's servant. I swore loyalty to only one inventor, to one brilliant mind illuminating the skies with its genius like your star had never had. I forgive your vengeful heart serving Mab, for the Creator forgives, unlike your Queen. Begone, whilst your armies can still walk. My masterpiece is almost done, and I shan't stop with its preparations. If you wish for a war with our magic, then you shall have it. The factory is almost ready to emerge, and once it does, her brilliance shall overpower the darkness your Empress wished for the entire world. You cannot stop the rituals feeding her, for the inventor can feel your every move. She whispers to my ear, illuminating my mind with a portion of its brilliance, and I know of all you do, of your horrid servitude to the betrayer of the men of this earth. May the skies above us have mercy on you. You will not stop us. Immediately after, POI-001a took the following actions. Tripled the intake of workers to Scp-001a, effectively resulting in the tripling of the ratio of the rituals feeding Scp-001c. Neutralized numerous Mab-aligned Phi organizations, bringing their bodies into Scp-001a for purposes unknown. Utilized numerous thaumaturgic rituals within Scp-001a, disallowing entry into the building without his direct permission. Hastened the shipment of unknown thaumaturgic and theological apparatus into the factory. Realizing the only way to neutralize the threat of the breaking of the veil due to Rolanda's actions whilst still maintaining the protection from POI-001c was taking control of Scp-001a. Overwatch Command had undertaken the following vote. Proposal. Utilize Foundation resources to seize Scp-001c from James Rolanda and establish a site within effectively gain control over the protection from POI-001C offered by sacrifices to SCP-001C whilst still maintaining the secretive nature of the SCP Foundation's operations. Administrator's Note 4. When, all those years ago, I brought the 13 talented mages and theologists that would eventually become my council before myself, I swore one thing: to never resort to meaningless violence. For all those 40 years we've operated together now, I stayed true to my promise. Even if I was among the few of us that did keep it, I kept it. Never have I approved an operation that would result in the deaths of people who didn't need to die for the world to become safe. But times have changed. If you'd told me 40 years ago I would be approving, nay, even suggesting a military raid that would result in the deaths of factory workers to contain a single threat, I'd call you a madman. But it must be done. We simply cannot allow ourselves to lose the only known mechanism to defend against MAB in the entire universe. We must strike quickly and ruthlessly, because we need to keep MAB away from baseline reality, no matter what it takes. Such are the demands the greater good makes upon us, no matter our personal opinions. I'm truly sorry, but there is no other way. Council Vote Summary. Yay. 05-1. 05-3. 05-5. 05-8. 05-9. 05-11. Nay. 05-2. 05-6. 05-7. 05-10. 05-12. 05-13. Abs. 05-4. Additional vote. Administrator. Yay. Status. Approved. 752. Result. Following the vote, the operation was slated to take place as quickly as possible. Addendum 0014, SCP-001a Raid. Following the mobilization of all available Foundation forces within the area of SCP-001a on the 27th of February 1910, the SCP Foundation officially began a military attack on SCP-001a. The following is a transcript of Error's only memory of the event, verified as safe for public viewing due to numerous mimetic triggers present within his memory, as provided by a ritual conducted by Maria Jones. Date: the 27th of February 1910. Subject: SCP-001a. Present parties: POI-001a. Error: 5. 05-4. 05-8. Forward. Due to the protective field set up within Error's memories, the following was the only mimetic trigger-free memory of the event available for harvest without causing damage to its host. As a result of only partial removal to ensure Error's safety, the following transcript is unclear and describes only one very specific fragment of the SCP-001a raid. Begin log. The feed begins as 05-8 is standing outside the entrance to POI-001a's office. Her hands are extended widely, just 5 centimeters away from the doors to the room, and she is visibly struggling in deep focus. She opens her deep and burning purple eyes 6 and, with a silent scream, tears the doors apart, revealing entry into the office. Panting, she nods towards the rest of the group, made up of Error and 05-4, and they enter into it. The room is extremely large and packed with numerous bookcases, chests, and containers, with magical items of unknown purpose scattered throughout. In the corner, behind a large wooden desk, Rolander is cowering. He is shivering, with a shadow formation akin to a crown forming above his head. Sobbing, in a panicked state, he attempts to hide from the intruders behind the chair. 05-8, in a powerful tone, James Joseph Rolander. POI-001a screams, falling to the ground. The shadows above him start to disappear. Noticing this, Rolanda panics. He attempts to grab the formation, but fails, eventually losing all of it. He starts to scour the floor around him, looking for something, frantically talking to himself but finding nothing. 05-8 comes closer, extending her hand. Rolanda notices this, and widens his eyes. Rolanda, no number. No. No. 05-8, come forward, and answer for your crimes. Rolanda throws a book at 8, who easily deflects it with ontokinesis. She comes closer yet again, and snaps her fingers. Poi-001a starts to levitate, unable to move. Rolanda, no. Weakly, she said, it will end differently. 8 smiles, clenching her fist. Rolanda starts to choke, grabbing his throat in a panicked manner, but seconds later falls on the ground, his eyes burning with a bright green. He frees himself of the power holding him back through unknown means, moving towards 05-8. Rolanda, in a hoarse tone, the light of the Thousand Dawn Empire shall not add. He blinks, suddenly falling to the ground again. When he reopens his eyes, they are normal, and he does not seem to realize what just happened. 8 groans, throwing him like a ragdoll onto the wall. Her nose starts to bleed profusely. Error, Mary, I think that's Eno. 8 screams in anger as she throws Poi-001a around the room, smashing him against any and all obstacles in her path. Error, that's enough. The overseer suddenly stops, panting aggressively. She is bleeding from every orifice, but does not seem to notice nor care. Instead, with visible exhaustion in her eyes, she turns towards Error. Error, quietly, what the fuck was that? What the hell's gotten into you? You were supposed to not kill him. For God's sake, we can't just murder people. 05-8, you can't murder people. 8 grabs herself by the head, groaning silently. 05-8, God, I don't know, something here is, They are suddenly interrupted by 05-4 grabbing the half-alive Rolanda by his jacket, pulling his face close. 4 spits on him. Rolanda does not react, silently sobbing. 05-4, you disgust me. 4 heads for the exit, carrying the broken Poi-001a with him. However, as he is about to reach the rest of the group, Rolanda's body suddenly explodes with shadows and smoke, causing the overseer to drop him. 4 screams, backing off, as a singular, burning green eye blinks from within the expanding smoke. Unknown, coming from within the smoke, in a hoarse tone, come home, my child. Come home and suffer no more. The smoke suddenly clears, revealing that Poi-001a's body has disappeared. Where it once laid, only his clothing remains to be seen. 05-4 inhales sharply, and turns towards the rest of the group. 05-4, error? Error, yes. 05-4, tell the people the factory has fallen. End log. Afterward, following the events described above, the SCP Foundation had officially taken control of the factory. To fully discuss further actions following the above, a summit of the O5 Council was called. Further containment and research plans regarding SCP-001 were discussed, eventually landing on the necessity of a site within the anomaly's proximity to properly contain it. As a result, a proposal was put forward by O5-1 to, over a long period of time, transform the gigantic structure of SCP-001a into a Foundation site, acting as the main hub of operations for the Council and its most important project, SCP-001. Addendum 0015, further SCP-001 research. Following the stabilization of the threat of potential civilian discovery of SCP-001A due to Rolander's decisions and the finalization of Site 1's construction, the O5 Council decided that research into the true nature of SCP-001B and SCP-001C as well as the latter's protective nature against POI-001C was a priority. Despite previous studies showcasing the fact that SCP-001C is most likely the half-dead entity referred to as the inventor, further study conducted by O5 4 and his teams revealed that the entity was connected to numerous Phi-Seers and thaumaturgists in the world, still capable of communication. However, despite the aforementioned stabilization, attacks from local Queen Mab-affiliated militias did not stop, instead increasing in frequency. The Foundation attempted contact with said groups on numerous occasions, but the only answer ever received was the following: "You will not bring her back. Not after everything we've done to try to stop it." Chatter picked up by Foundation moles situated within communities around the world suggested that a Phi army, like the world has never seen since the dawn of Mab, was gathering to attack SCP-001A. Initially dismissed as mere rumors, this eventually led to the Foundation tripling security measures around Site-01 after numerous previously stationary Phi groups went on the move. Further research into this phenomenon remained pending at the time. In the meantime, research into SCP-001C was officially approved. After months of analysis, it was officially confirmed that following sacrifices to SCP-001C being done, the percent of Queen Mab's entire being existing in baseline reality did in fact seem to reduce from 5% to 4%. Rendering all previous interpretations to be true. In order to utilize the fact that SCP-001C, presumed to be Queen Mab's sibling, was still alive and able to communicate, the following tests were undertaken. See Wiki for full document. Noteworthy is the fact that all bodies and individuals sacrificed to SCP-001C seemed to lack any characteristic traits. No individual looking at them was able to identify them, despite their physical composure not having changed. Addendum 0016, Site-01 Raid. On the 12th of August 1911, Site-01 thaumaturges suddenly detected a gigantic mass incoming, manifesting into the planes around SCP-001A via a portal ritual. The ritual was nearing completion, with the portal approximated to contain individuals numbering in the thousands. A 2-hour window to prepare for the army's arrival was projected. When evacuation was ordered, the area around the building was almost immediately cut off via a thaumaturgic barrier. Numerous anti-magic apparatus set up around the site did not appear to slow the ritual. A site-wide alert was immediately called, with the entire council immediately evacuated to the lower levels and appropriate personnel called to duty. A distress call to other Foundation sites was attempted, but due to no such facilities existing within Poland, no aid was possible within the given time span. Site-01 staff began to prepare for the incoming attack, attempting to eavesdrop on the teleporting army's conversations, yielding the below result. Forward. Due to high ritual instability, most of the intercepted and translated Phi dialogue is heavily corrupted. Begin log. Unknown 1. Unintelligible. I'm trying to say is that we, unintelligible, cannot allow them to bring, unintelligible, back, no matter the co. Unknown 2. I know that, unintelligible, that doesn't mean we, unintelligible, can disobey her, this. Unintelligible. Insanity. We both know that. Unknown 1. It is. But has she, unintelligible, done, unintelligible, same? All great, unintelligible, revolutionize the world, unintelligible, way, after a. Unknown 2. Sigh. If by a breakthrough you mean a slaughter, then Kong, unintelligible, you are exactly like. Unintelligible, unintelligible. Unknown 1. Unintelligible. The only choice. It's unintelligible. The greater good. Unknown 2. No. There's no such thing as a unintelligible good. And you're exactly like her zealots for believing there is. End log. At this time, all personnel within the facility reported hearing a voice similar to that of SCP-001C, both screaming with fear and laughing simultaneously. Research into this event revealed the source to be non-existent. At 1738 approximately 100,000 Phi appeared, ignoring and bypassing all anti-teleportation and anti-magic defense mechanisms, and immediately began to storm the site. Consult the below extracted memory for more details. Date: the 12th of August 1911. Parties present. Error. Forward. Due to the frequent corruption present within this extracted memory, it is unknown how much of the material presented within, if any, is true. Begin log. Corrupted memories redacted. Error is frantically running through the numerous corridors of SCP-001A, constantly looking back, trying to see if anyone is following him. All around him lie numerous corpses, some of them with broken necks, and the floors of the factory are covered in blood. He is shivering. He eventually finds a dead end he can hide in. He covers his mouth, trying not to make a sound, and closes his eyes, trying to stop the panic. Footsteps can be heard from the outside hallway as Error starts to sob, attempting to remain silent. The footsteps eventually stop as shadows just outside the gap he is hiding in appear. Neither of the figures seems to notice the entrance to Error's hiding place. Unknown 1. In Phi. Where did he go? Unknown 2. I don't know. He was just here. Unknown 1 groans. Unknown 1. Are you kidding me? He could have already found the queen. Moron. Unknown 1 sighs. Unknown 1. We need to find him. And we need to do it now. I'm not about to fail her for the second time. You understand? Unknown 2. Why yes. The two walk away as Error collapses on the ground, grabbing his head in his hands. He starts to sob as the recording is filled by screams, sounds of flesh being torn, and metal clanging against metal. Corrupted memories redacted. Error is shivering, sitting as close to the wall as possible. Although tears are still running down his face, he no longer seems to notice them, frantically trying to stay as immobile as possible. The sounds from before seem to have ended, instead replaced by a deafening silence. He suddenly opens his eyes, looking around the room with an unconscious stare. He is no longer within the same space he'd occupied minutes ago, now lying on the cold floors of a short corridor ending in gigantic green doors, which stand open. Green smoke is pouring out of the doors, encompassing him and his surroundings in an ominous aura. From within the room beyond, a silent whisper akin to that of an animal fills the air. Unknown, come. Error is lifted from his sitting spot, suddenly starting to walk towards the room. Unconsciously he walks into it, and the entire feed becomes filled with the smoke, obscuring vision. From within a singular green eye can be seen, blinking once and illuminating the room with its bright light. Unknown, what is it you seek with the light that illuminates the skies of the Millennium Empire? Error, I. Unknown, speak. Error's expression suddenly changes from panic to completely still as a green spark appears within his right eye. Error, I wish to seek shelter from my enemies. I wish to save my people. Unknown, no number. Tell me what you truly wish for. The room is suddenly filled with thousands of eyes, observing Error from every single corner. Both his eyes start to burn with a bright green. Error, I wish to destroy my enemies. Utterly and thoroughly, so that none of them remain. Wipe them out like the maggots they are, bringing back my dominion over them once again, like the error, begins to sob again, grabbing his head. His face turns expressionless only seconds after. Unknown, and who are your enemies? Error, the servants of the Queen, the zealots of the eternal starlight upon the skies of the endless kingdom, wishing to bring their monster back from the dead. The myriad eyes suddenly start to smile. Unknown, then it shall be done. Corrupted memories redacted. Error, is suddenly standing on the balcony directly above SCP-001a's entry, 7 with 05-2 and 05-8 beside him. His eyes are burning with a green light, and in his hands, a long stone similar in shape to a wand can be seen. He is pointing it at the open hills beneath him, upon which thousands of Fey are standing with various forms of weaponry in their hands. Error smiles, and starts to speak, his deafening voice filling the horizon. Error, army of starlight, bringers of monarchy, and omens of doom. Hear me. The entire army immediately looks at him, every single individual present with full focus. Error, for millennia, you and your queen have reigned supreme as the horrors of your rule filled the night sky you illuminated with hatred. The staff starts to burn with a green light as Error extends it forward. Error, for countless eons you've taken what was not yours to rule, bringing it to your own kingdom as sacrifices to the one you call God. The entire crowd starts to look around, deeply confused. Seconds later, however, their attention is once again brought to Error, as blank expressions fill their faces. Error, for years uncountable, you've exploited this world and its people for your monstrous empress, feeding the eldritch monster of a ruler she was. He whispers a few inaudible words to himself, and the terrain around the army starts to shake. Error, but no more shall it be so. The crowd becomes distressed, noticing the changes. Error, begone. The entire crowd suddenly starts to scream as a gigantic vortex forms in the ground beneath them. Animal-like cries can be heard as the countless vocalizing Fey fall on the ground, screaming in agony as their bodies start to transform into numerous animal-like humanoid beings, retaining their original clothing. In the middle of the vortex, a portal black as night appears, sucking those present into it as more and more of them sob in pain, their transformations continuing. Seconds later, a number greater than what was originally standing in the hills falls into the forming hole as the portal leading to an unknown place closes, leaving no one standing in front of SCP-001a. A silent scream fills the local area as the sky smiles for a second, before blinking again into non-existence. 05-2 looks at Error, with a terrified expression filling his mechanical face. 05-2, what have you done, Error? Error, exactly what needed to be done. Corrupted memories redacted. End log. Afterward, it is believed that, as a result of the action undertaken by Error, approximately 85% of the Fey populace was eradicated from baseline reality. Further research into the consequences of this action as well as the true destination of the ritual is ongoing. To discuss the consequences of the above, an emergency O5 council meeting hosted at Site-01 was called 2 weeks later, following the finalization the cleanup required by the results of the raid. The following is its record, as transcribed by Maria Jones. Date: the 27th of August 1911. Parties present. Error. 05-2. 05-4. 05-5. 05-11. Maria Jones. Forward. Due to the state of their health or their outright death following the Site-01 raid, a majority of the O5 Council was unable to attend the following meeting. At that time, Potential replacements for the positions of 05-6, 05-7, 05-9, 805-10, and 05-12 were being sought out. Begin log. The transcript begins, showing Site 1's 05 Council Meeting Hall, adapted from Rollander's office to fit its new purpose. Of the 14 seats around the gigantic table in the middle, only 5 are filled. Upon the table, now visibly damaged, rests a multitude of letters and documents. 05-4 is browsing them quickly, trying to read as much as he can. The other council members and Maria Jones are visibly impatient, as if waiting for someone. Minutes later, the doors to the room open, revealing error. He nods to the council, corrects his suit, and checks his watch. 05-4 notices him, standing up from his chair and walking towards him angrily. 05-4, what have you done? Error does not respond, instead coming towards the table. He grabs one of the chairs and sits in it, looking at the documents around him. 05-4 comes closer, shaking Error's shoulders. 05-4, what the fuck have you done? Error sighs. Error chosen the lesser evil. 05-4 scoffs, slightly backing off. 05-4, you're insane. You're actually insane. Error groans silently. Error 4, I would like you to remind you who you're talking to. 05-4 comes closer to Error, pushing him slightly with anger in his eyes. 05-4, shut the fuck up. Shut up. I'm your friend, Error, I'm not fucking for to you. And I would like to remind you that you just fucking murdered almost an entire race. You. 05-4 tries to hit Error, but he is too slow to duck an incoming blow from his opponent. 4 falls, spitting blood on the floor. Error turns his sight from the floor to the overseer. His eyes glow with a faint green, and, above his head, for a brief second, a shadow formation reminiscent of a crown forms, only to disappear moments later. He comes closer to 05-4, grabbing him by his jacket and bringing their faces close together. Error, insult me one more time. 4 backs off, again attempting to strike Error, but he is interrupted by 05-2 standing up slowly from the table and turning towards the two of them. 05-2, gentlemen, I do not believe violence is productive in our situation. 4 looks angrily at 2. He starts to pant, grabbing his head again, this time with one hand only. 05-4, don't get into this, you fucking piece of cogs. 05-4 turns to the rest of the council. 05-4, how can you stand idly by, knowing what he's done? How can you not react? 4 looks at 11. 05-4, where is your ethics committee now? 4 looks again at Error, pointing at him with a shaking hand. The founding of the SCP Foundation. Originally founded in 1870 following the conclusion of the Sixth Occult War as an evolution of a group researching thaumaturgy, theology, and the history of the Two Great Diasporas. Created by some of the 13 of the richest and most influential men and women of their time, led by one individual, Error. The SCP Foundation was created with 3 goals in mind: to secure the human population from Phi and SCP-1000 attacks, contain the threat of Queen Mab and the gods of the ancient past, and protect humanity from a third great diaspora. The Foundation's motto would eventually be adapted from these goals. Prior to the 1870 summit, plans to integrate the numerous subgroups into one organization were passed among the leaders who would eventually comprise the original 05 Council. Only following that year's discovery that Queen Mab was still alive, however, prompted by research made due to the conclusion of the aforementioned war, was it officially signed. This single discovery proved that research alone wouldn't be enough to deal with the existential threats hanging above humanity, and that a containment policy limiting their spread would eventually become necessary. On the 29th of December 1870, the SCP Foundation was officially created following approval from 13 consenting parties, as proposed and later led by Era, who gained the position of administrator by unanimous decision. 05-4. We swore to protect humanity from a third diaspora when we banded together those 40 years ago. 9. Don't any of you remember? Scoffs. I'd call all of you hypocrites, but that wouldn't reflect even a part of my hatred for you, you pieces of she. Maria Jones suddenly stands up, moving her pen and papers aside. Maria Jones. Enough. 05-4. But. Maria Jones. In a thunderous voice, I said, enough. 05-4 calms down, walking towards his seat. He starts to sit in it again, and puts his face in his hands. Error. 05-4. I believe it would be in your best interest to remove yourself from this room now. 05-4 stands up with an angry manner, calming himself, walking towards the door. Error. Turns towards the rest of the council. Error. What I've done because it was the only way out of that situation. There was no other way. He pauses, taking a deep breath. Error. I realize what I've done, and I will not try to defend myself. But you have to look at it this way. Out of the two evils, this was for the greater good for all of. 05-4. If you really believe such a thing as the greater good exists, then you truly are a bigger fool than I ever expected. Error. Firmly. Go, before I remove you from more than just this room. 05-4 opens the doors leading out of the hall, and spits on the floor. 05-4. You disgust me. 4 walks out of the room. End log. Afterward, due to his behavior during the summit, 05-4 was officially removed from the SCP-001 project by direct order of Error. Refusing to elaborate on the incident, he simply left Site-01 without a word. Later found reporting from one of his research sites in North America. Addendum 0017. Results of the Third Diaspora. Following the information about the Foundation causing the Third Diaspora reaching the public, and, by extension, Foundation personnel, resignations have reached the highest rate ever recorded. Espionage and betrayal amongst Foundation personnel has increased by almost 10%, with overall efficiency down by approximately 40% even 2 years after the event. Throughout the entirety of the post-diaspora period, a severe decrease in the mental stability of numerous Foundation staff, including Maria Jones and Error, has been noted. The most notable case is the aforementioned administrator, seen engaging in highly uncharacteristic behavior while denying any personal peculiarity. Examples included, but were not limited to, erratic decisions without authorization from the rest of the council. Visible obsession with the occult, despite little to no previous interest in such. Visible obsession with fee history, despite little to no previous interest in such. Paranoia and trust issues. Patterns of talking to himself on seemingly nonsensical subjects. Said behavior culminated on the 30th of December 1913 when Error disappeared, the only evidence left being the following note found on his desk. It had never been the inventor. How could I have been so blind? The only contextual evidence Foundation thaumaturgists have found is an almost unnoticeable mark of magic leading towards SCP-001b from Error's office. The following is the only memory visualization available in the thaumaturgic thought space near SCP-001b that in any way references the event. Date: unknown. Subject: unknown. Forward: the truthfulness of the following is still pending approval from the rest of the O5 Council. Begin log. Error is standing in a short and dimly lit corridor, panting. He is holding the same stone he had used to cause the third diaspora in his hand, pointing it at the gigantic green doors in front of him. The entire area is filled with fog and sounds of clockwork turning in the background, as well as voices similar to those of former SCP-001a workers. Error, monster. He comes closer, opening the doors with visible difficulty. As he finishes doing so, powerful wind starts to blow from inside, making him back off. He points the item at the inside of the room, from which green fog is rolling into the area around him. Error, we fed you. The sound of something stirring within the room fills the air as Error grabs his head in his hands. He screams with pain, falling on the floor. Unknown laughs. Error, what even are you? Error loses his words, breaking down in tears. He loses hold of the stone, letting it fall on the ground as his entire body shivers. Unknown chuckles. Does that even truly matter? Error is suddenly lifted from the ground as green fills his eyes, making him scream. As he continues to do so, he is transported into SCP-001b. Unknown come from underneath Error's jacket. Animal-like fur starts to explode, eventually filling his entire body. His face distorts, visibly deforming. His continued screaming eventually turns into the gurgling of a hog. He tries to reach for an exit, grabbing one of the doors, but his hands slip away as they turn into hooves. He eventually loses all voice, but the screaming continues as his now fully converted body begins to twitch violently. The feed disconnects. End log. Afterward, no such individual with the name Error was ever a part of the Foundation's personnel. Following a second appearance of such an error following the initial SCP-001a exploration and the above event, it was decided that it was the effect of SCP-001c and should be ignored to maintain documentation logic. Due to months of no contact with Error, likely the previous name for the Foundation's administrator, as well as the nature of the above event, he was presumed dead. Addendum 0018. Post-incident stabilization attempts. As requested by the remaining members of Overwatch Command, now not limited by Error's influence, further research into the consequences of the third diaspora revealed that despite the 85% of the previously existing Phi populace being murdered, the remaining 15% did not fade, instead forming communities within Nexuses and free ports around the globe. No contact with them was attempted at the time of discovery, for obvious reasons. Following the death of Error, in unknown circumstances at the hands of SCP-001c, the position of the administrator remained vacant for a significant period of time. To properly deal with this problem as well as the consequences of the third diaspora following the death of its perpetrator, a meeting of the O5 Council was called. The following is its transcript, as provided by Maria Jones. Date: the 25th of July 1914. Parties present: 05-1, 05-2, 05-3, 05-4, 05-5, 05-8, 05-11, 05-13, Maria Jones. Forward, as, at the time of recording, the position of administrator remained vacant. No supreme leadership over the Foundation was granted to any individual. Despite this, the Council unanimously agreed a summit was necessary, without any outside pressure to attend. Begin log. 05-11 enters into the now fully renewed hall of the Council's meetings. Where once had been the damaged office of the now deceased POI-001a is a room filled with Foundation maps, iconography, items of research, and contact apparatus. Among this can be seen a large wooden table with 13 seats, around which 8 visibly tired and saddened individuals are sitting. They are reading letters and other documents on the table. 11 hurries to the table, clears his throat, and joins the remainder of the council members in his seat. 05-11. Apologies for the delay. Onto kinetics, needed my assistance. Shall we begin? He looks at 05-1, who nods. 11 smiles almost unnoticeably, nodding back, and he stands up from his seat, looking at the remainder of the council. 05-11. Sigh. I'm not going to play around. The problem, Error, is dead, as you all know, and, well, with him being gone, so is the position of administrator. 05-4 groans. 05-4, and so too, the defenses for what he's done. 05-11, yes, that too. 05-11 pauses for a moment, trying to find his words. After failing to do so, he grabs his forehead with his right hand, gently massaging it, and sighs. 05-11, what I'm ultimately trying to say is that we fucked up. Jesus Christ, have we fucked up? We need an administrator and a way to fix all of this goddamned mess. And we need one now. Dead silence fills the room as 11 exhales loudly. 05-11, so, any ideas? The silence is broken by the quiet humming of 05-2's mechanisms as he stands up. The turning clockwork fills the void left by the intrusion. 05-2, McHane once said that to bear total power well, one must be objective in order to be just. 2 looks around the room. 05-2, therefore, humanity is unable to rule well. To deal with. 05-4 coughs theatrically. 05-4, no. I'm not giving a goddamned mechanite power over the rest of us. Pointing at 05-2, that wasn't the deal with your little master when we built you. 05-2, 05-11, friends, please. As silence fills the room again, 05-1, who remained both silent and inactive during prior activities, suddenly clears his throat. 05-1, I will take it. 05-11, huh? 05-1, no matter how you think about it, the position of administrator isn't a blessing, sigh, and I'm the only one here who's too tired to use that curse in any way that would destroy us. I'm an old man, Joseph. You can wage your little wars as much as you want, but I'm only here to keep the destruction to a minimum. 11 tries to speak up, but decides against it. He sighs, and sits down, looking at the rest of the council. 05-11, anyone against? No one reacts, silently looking on the ground. 05-11, so it's decided. One stands up again, throwing the document he's been holding in his hands on the desk. 05-11 raises his eyebrow. 05-11, and that is? 05-1, the results of the third diaspora, in numbers. 05-2, I fail to see how that is relevant to the topic of our meeting. 05-1, it's relevant, too, because we have to admit to what we've done. 05-2, I beg your pardon. 05-1, we need to fix what we've done, do you understand? Even if error had done so, we were one of the reasons it happened, and I'm not about to allow for my first action to be avoiding the consequences of our crimes. Short pause. 05-1, so, to put it simply, what the hell do we do? 11 raises his hand. 05-11, free ports. We need to find them. Find them, and protect them the best we can do. And, perhaps one day, they might even not want to kill us. 05-8 scratches her head. 05-8, The last I heard about them was when we discovered that one in Wisconsin. And I don't think they have ferries in there. 05-4. There's been rumors of one here in Poland, mostly fee-operated. Esterberg, it's supposedly called. My teams recover more and more records of it being a safe haven for the anomalous, something like that. And there's always High Brassel. 05-1. Is this confirmed? 4 scratches his chin. 05-4. As close as we can get with a rumor, I suppose. But establishing a site wouldn't hurt anyone there. We needed one in Poland anyways. Turning towards 11. Hasn't Hannah Rivera been keen on making one recently? 05-11. She has. Yes. 05-4. So, what's the problem? 05-2. We cannot just allow things to change immediately. It would be suspicious, and personnel would rebel. Approving of her request after denying it for so long would be unwise. 05-1. 2's right. We need to take our time. Let's send her there, and if she finds something, only then let's allow her sight to happen. It would be, what, our 120th? 4 smiles. 05-4. And then, once she finds that Esterberg, let's start slowly, until we can fix things. But it will need time. We can't rush this. 60 years at least. 05-8. 60 years? Have you lost your mind? That's more than half a century. 05-11. We have time. One size. 05-1. We can't just make this a one-time thing. We must change our directives, not the ways in which people perceive them. 05-4. Nobody can know this, aside from us. Not now, at least. People will resign if they learn of this now. Let's pretend to stay ruthless still, until we can truly change, giving into that change one step yearly. 05-2. It will need to become our 4th motto. Securing, containing, and protecting are no longer the valid way. 4 chuckles silently. 05-4. A 4th directive? Why not? Passionate chatter spawns among the council, which is quickly stopped by 11 standing up and clearing his throat. 05-11. Let's put it to a vote, shall we? End log. Afterward, see the document below. Proposal. Through the pursuit of all available information, locate every single free port previously unknown to the Foundation across the globe in an attempt to find and aid the remaining members of the Homo sapiens SID species. Expunge all information about the third diaspora available to the public, and prevent a fourth from occurring through any means necessary, including the containment of Queen Mab through continued sacrifices to Scp-001c. Declassify a simplified version of the third diaspora records to all Foundation personnel. Council vote summary. Yay. 05-1. 05-2. 05-3. 05-4. 05-5. ENA 10. ENA 11. 05-8. ENA 12. ENA 13. 05-11. ENA 14. 05-13. Nay. ENA. ABS. ENA. Status. Approved. 800. Result. Further codenamed Directive Alpha 1911. The foregoing proposal has been accepted and set as the unofficial directive to the SCP Foundation. Among its known directives to secure, contain, and protect. Available in full only to the O5 Council. All Foundation resources are made available to ensure the procedure's proper maintenance. Following the unanimous passing of the proposal, making amends with the fee populace has officially started. However, To ensure the continued compliance of Foundation personnel and to not precipitate any resignations due to drastic policy changes, the full process was projected to take over 70 years to complete. Calculations by 05-2 determined that the best way to integrate Phi and SCP-1000 cultures into human societies and structures, allowing for peaceful and harmonious coexistence, would be gradual and small changes, eventually leading to total integration and, perhaps, the removal of the Foundation as a factor altogether. This process began with the founding of Site-120 to oversee Esterberg, the free port of Zestachar. However, despite these changes being attempted and, over time, amplified, not all anomalous societies have shown support, with some going as far as violence to oppose them. The most active was and remains to this day GOI 120, Triumvirate 15, formed amongst the chaos that ensued following the factory purge, as the Third Diaspora was later called, by the followers of MAB, which remained after their slaughter. On the day of its inception, theorized to be within 2 weeks of the 13th of August 1911, the original date of the Third Diaspora, the group sent out a message to all Site-01 personnel which resulted in their discovery. A transcript of the message, translated from Phi and without the mimetic triggers the original possessed, is available below. It's quite funny, seeing your organization and the little council managing it believing itself to be in control. We've seen that attitude ever since we formed in the bowels of the earth all those hundreds of thousands of years ago. Hubris. That's what we called it. Hubris was the downfall of everything you've built, and ever will build. We'd say we're the bringers of that exact same event, only in recent days, but that would only be half the truth. As for you, we are also the harbingers of your inevitable and painful deaths. There's a certain irony to your situation, but we'll let you figure it out yourselves. It will be quite fun to watch you realize the obvious truth before you. But even then, none of this truly matters. We are growing in numbers, and we are growing fast. The Third Diaspora left more of us than you thought, and you'll soon find it out the hard way. Until then, we will be patiently waiting. Despite the actions undertaken as a result of Directive Alpha 1911, the threat posed by Queen Mab remained extant. To counter this, a consensus between the Foundation and SCP-001c was attempted. Despite the entity's prior host, death, the lack of ease in contact with it as a result of the event, and ethical concerns, following numerous days of debate among the Council and approval from 05-11, it was decided that Procedure 001 corpus needed to be maintained at all costs. As a result of that decision, it was agreed that exactly 13 live humans would be delivered to SCP-001c on a weekly basis. To cause the least damage to the Foundation via this process, the usage of bright Zarshan hominid replicators, BZHR, to form the individuals required for the procedure was unanimously authorized. However, despite this, numerous Foundation personnel were found dissatisfied over the ethics of this method as well as the overall ethics of working with a deity. In response, the following message was sent by 05-1 to all Foundation personnel with knowledge of the procedure. In recent days, my office and I have been approached by anonymous complaints regarding the ethicality of Procedure 001 corpus, going so far as to ask where was the Ethics Committee when we approved it. Whilst those complaints are of course understandable given the situation, I need to clear something up. We are not giving a god what it wants. We're merely making sure the sister of said god doesn't massacre us. And giving that bastard corpses is frankly the only thing we can do. We can't fix the past. But we just might be able to make the future a little brighter. And to do that, we cannot allow Mab to repeat what we've done, slaughtering the world for the 4th time. And the only way to make sure that doesn't happen is Procedure 001 corpus. No, I say this with a heavy heart, but the ritual remains as it is. It simply must. 05-1. Current Administrator of the SCP Foundation. With current information, it is believed that the total fulfillment of the Foundation's new directive will be possible by approximately 1980, with containment of P001C being indefinitely sustainable. End of file. 1. File update available. Access. Addendum 0019. The 12th of August 1918 file update. On the 10th of August 1918, a member of the Site-01 maintenance team, Anthony Major, fell victim to an incident involving SCP-001b. At the ending of his shift he entered into the room, despite claiming to have possessed no will to find it. Further research revealed that this was due to the cleanup crew's leadership forgetting to relay the anti-SCP-001C influence pills which each team member is required to take daily. Despite successfully entering into SCP-001b, Major was able to escape the room due to a sudden awakening of previously dormant ontokinetic abilities, effectively becoming the first recorded person able to leave unaffected. He remained within the corridor through which he found entry into SCP-001b for the remainder of his shift, only discovered 2 days later by Site-01 guards patrolling the area. Major was extremely dehydrated, exhibiting signs of extreme paranoia, fear, and anxiety, and refused to answer any questions. Following numerous hours of the appliance of calming rituals and treatment, however, he began to respond to simple queries. The following is a transcript of the interview which subsequently took place. Date: the 12th of August 1918. Interviewed: Anthony Major. Interviewer: Error 16. Forward: System error, unidentified edit lock override detected. Abandon T. Prustikal database errors. The feed connects, showing the interviewed and interviewer within a room in Site-1's medical bay. Major is shaking, paranoically looking around himself. His knees are close to his face, resulting in a fetal position on the bed. His eyes are swollen from hours of crying and 2 days of not sleeping. He is mumbling incoherently to himself. The interviewer is sitting on a chair near the previously mentioned bed. He is holding some sort of notebook, noting all reactions from Major. Error: what did you see? Major looks at him, panicked. His eyes are frantically moving, scanning. Error: as if attempting to discern if the figure before him is real. Major: I. He starts to sob again, staring at the floor beneath him. He blocks his ears and begins to shiver, moving in an irregular pattern. Error: Major. The interviewer grabs Major by his arms, shaking him. He blinks twice, realizing he's with someone else in the room and starts to shake again, but this time is visibly more focused. Error: what did you see down there? Anything? Major nods, swallowing saliva. He wipes tears away from his eyes, and starts to stare at the floor again. Error: yes. He nods again. Error: what was it? Pause. Error: what did you see? Mage, whispering, its name. I saw the name of the beast. The beast within the room. The interviewer visibly livens up, clicking his pen. He starts to write something down in the notebook, and, seconds later, turns his attention back to Major. Error: what was it? MJE. Silence. Error: what was the name, Major? MJ. Sobbing, starts to shake. I don't know. Error: what was it? Shakes head, crying violently. MMAB. It was MMAB. End log. Afterward, further research and implication interpretation is ongoing. Critical database error. Servers compromised. Shutting down terminal.